Hi folks, a little while back I showed you another Tailor's Eyewitness knife that I have, which is in Ironwood. This is what they call a Lambsfoot. I think if it was American it would probably be called a swayback, but because it does have a swayback handle, but predominantly it's a lambsfoot blade. Lambsfoot being a sheepsfoot blade, but it gets thinner towards the point. You're getting towards, if somebody described that as a Warncliffe, they probably wouldn't be completely wrong. And if it was a swayback, you probably would call it an American swayback. Probably would be a Warncliffe, and it would be slightly more pointy than this. But this is a very traditional sort of shape of knife from Sheffield. Anyway, I showed you this a little while ago. Well, I've recently been on a bit of an Ironwood kick, and I came across this one. Now, it's basically the same knife with the same blade, but there's just a couple of differences. I mean, these are all handmade knives, so one of the things that struck me about this one is that the Ironwood has a narrower blade. Now that's simply because the two are made by hand. This one is slightly more lambsfooty shaped or sheepsfoot shaped. This one is slightly more Warncliffe shaped, just because it tapers more towards the point. This one is just slightly wider. Now, I'm not sure if it's even measurably wider, but it is slightly wider. So that's the first thing that's different. Second thing that's different is that the Ironwood one has a plain back, no file work, whereas the Ironwood one here has the back, oops, just cut my finger there, file worked all the way along. Oops. File worked all the way along, goes all the way around the tail of the knife, and it doesn't want to focus, but it does, honestly. It goes all the way around there and onto the blade. But obviously the biggest difference between these two is what they're made of. And this one is made of this lovely Amboina burl with these lovely knots in it that just looks so smart. And of course it's the same piece of wood that's been cut in two, and one half is on one side and one half is on the other, as opposed to just two bits of Amboina wood that they've cut hundreds of and tried to match up. This is one piece split in half. One of the things I like about these artisan made knives. And this one, on the other hand, is made of ironwood, and some of the ironwood that Tailor's Eyewitness have come up with lately is just phenomenal. And this is quite possibly the best bit I've seen in a long time. But it's hard to say for certain, because whilst I've had ones like this which were nice, I've also had this one, which again is a phenomenal bit of desert ironwood. I mean, really, really, really nice. But this one, just amazing. Fantastic piece of wood. Quite dense as well. It makes these knives feel just a little bit heavier. Actually, they're not measurably that much heavier than one Amboina to Amboina burl to desert ironwood, but you can feel the difference. I think it's only a few grams, but you can feel it. It does feel denser. So the lovely knife, really practical work knife to use every day. I quite often carry one of these knives and use it. This one, the Amboina one's had a lot of use. This one's relatively new, so it hasn't had much use yet, but I have used it. It's just lovely. There's enough imperfection in it to know that it's handmade, but only just. That's what I really like. I love to see a knife that's just not absolutely perfect. You can get another ironwood knife I have, this Boker, which is absolutely perfect. But that's mainly because although it's hand finished, it's a factory-made knife, which means that parts are made for it on sort of CNC machines and things like that, which make sure that they come out very, very accurate. Whereas this knife is, the pieces are cut out, ground and shaped purely by hand and eye, and as a result you get that almost perfect, but the imperfections, enough imperfection to give it character and not enough imperfection to make it bad. And I know that's a difficult concept for some people to accept, but it's one that I really value. I like to know that I can see the fingerprints of the maker on that knife, but it's not sloppy or slapdash, as I have seen. I mean, I got some knives the other day from Rogers and George Woostenholme and Arthur Wright, and I had to send some of them back. I mean, they were that bad. We'll see some of the others in due course if you've not seen them already, and you'll see that they're okay, but they're not as good as this. I just had to wipe the blade there. It was annoying me too much. Yeah, they're not as good as this. The polish is not as good. The edges are not as sharp. The wood isn't as, or the materials, they're not. The two I'm going to show you from Wright are one is horn and one is stag, so they're different materials, but they're just not as good as the materials that I've had from Taylor's Eyewitness. Now, granted, they're a little bit cheaper, but they're not giveaways, you know. Anyway, so that's probably enough wittering. Oh, just I haven't done a size comparison with a Swiss Army knife for these knives, and I've been a bit remiss in that. This is very similar in size to a Swiss Army Pioneer. This is the 93mm Swiss Army knife. I haven't done a video on this one. I will do actually, because it's Pioneer X, but with red coloured scales. We'll get to that. It's a Knife Centre exclusive. So I don't think I've done a video on it yet, so I'll do that. Anyway, that's just to give you an idea of the size. It's very similar in size, very similar in weight. Slightly lighter maybe than that Pioneer X. Anyway, so enough of that. I do have some more knives to show you, so if you are interested, please give it a thumbs up, and please feel free to subscribe, and you might see some others come along in due course. Thank you very much. Bye.